It feels odd to be talking about the Daytona 500 months after it happened and 10 months before the next one. But there is something with the prestigious event that is going to shake it up long term, possibly forever. And that is, of course, the NFL. The 8,000-pound gorilla in the room of sports who can bully anyone out of any date and will do so gleefully. And unfortunately, NASCAR will be the next one more than likely on the chopping block if Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, gets his way. When he was on the Pat McAfee Show at the NFL draft, Roger Goodell made a lot of news by saying, "I think we're good at 17 now when it comes to games, that is. But I'm not a fan of the preseason. I'd rather replace a preseason game with a regular season any day. If we get to 18 regular season and 2 preseason, that's not an unreasonable thing." And many might be wondering, well, why is that a big deal? They'll just move the start of the season up. Well, it's a big deal because that's not exactly what they're going to do. They have added that they would have a second bye week. And if they had a second bye week today with a second game, that would move the NFL's biggest event, the biggest sporting event in America, 2 weeks later. But what's going to happen is they're going to move the start of the season more than likely up a week to Labor Day weekend, which will be head-to-head with the Southern 500, meaning that once more one of the most prestigious events in NASCAR gets pushed to the side. All right, that's bad enough. The problem is that also moves the Super Bowl up to the weekend that the Daytona 500 is on, President's Day weekend. And he said that it would have a second bye week, meaning that President's Day weekend would practically make the Super Bowl a holiday weekend, and it would basically be a national holiday like many have asked, because most people in America just want to get shit-faced when they watch the Super Bowl. But anyway, this has really raised a lot of eyebrows with those in NASCAR, whether it be fans or media alike. The Super Bowl has well over 100 million viewers and has done so in 12 of the last 15 years, and a lot of what brought it down to begin with in those other years was the COVID bump down. Last year was an all-time high for the Super Bowl, with 124 million viewers on average, not even the peak, and nearly 50% of those that could view it in the United States doing so. Hell, the NFL Draft has 12 million viewers as of this year and is over 4 million more to the good than the Daytona 500. They own a day of the week for a good part of the year, and now they're going to expand upon it. Hell, NBC already moves Daytona and Indianapolis, 2 of the biggest dates in the NASCAR schedule. Granted, one was a road course, but still moves those in certain areas for preseason games. Whether you like the NFL or not is irrelevant. The NFL is taking the giant majority of casual fans in sports away from NASCAR, NBA, MLB, you name it. Everyone is affected by this. NASCAR certainly is the most. And the big question arises, what does NASCAR do? First off, looking at the Southern 500, I think you just got to leave it be. You're going to have to deal with the fact that you're going head-to-head with them, and I think that moving it to a Saturday won't help because less people watch TV or anything in general on Saturdays. It's generally a day of the week that people like to go out and do things more than a Sunday. You're just kind of screwed there, unless you want to move it to a Monday night race and have it Labor Day night. That might be something you could do if you work out a primetime deal. But seeing how it'll probably be on the NBC portion of the year, unless NASCAR majorly moves the schedule around, well, you're going to have a tough time prying an NBC date away from the finale, away from possibly the Brickyard, away from Daytona, away from Talladega, or even Martinsville being the penultimate race of the year. That's going to be really difficult to do for what ultimately will either be the regular season finale or be, well, just the first playoff race, which is what the Southern 500 for so often in the last decade has been turned into. There are options as well for the Daytona 500, which I think is the bigger issue here. Number one, stay put. Make your biggest event and what sets the tone for your season viewership-wise as well as tonally a complete afterthought in the zeitgeist. Absolutely not. You cannot do that. You cannot try and go head-to-head with the Super Bowl. Hell, the Super Bowl pregame show gets double the viewers of the Daytona 500. It is that big of an event, and the Super Bowl itself is viewed more favorably and more important by the American audience than presidential debates and election coverage. That is how big this game is. It is the biggest cultural event of the year. You cannot go against it, and you can't even be the same day as it because you will be completely wiped aside by all sports media, even more than NASCAR already is. You could move it a week earlier in the year. Take a week off after the 500. Unfortunately, any momentum you'd build from it and maybe the clash the week before, well, you're gone. And you would be head-to-head with the Pro Bowl if it's still around, but still you're going against NFL coverage leading up to the Super Bowl. Not exactly favorable for such a big event. And then again, you get basically pushed aside and you have to start the season all over again from a marketing perspective. I don't think that's the way they'll go either. I think the only option NASCAR has is move it a week later. President's Day will be the second to last week of the year, so you'll get the last Sunday in February starting out the season. You'll stay the week after the Super Bowl. Things will probably stay the same, just moved a week forward, basically. And from there, you pretty much ensure that you'll, instead of having 10 or 11 weeks against the NFL later in the year, have 11 or 12. Also, this might mean with the NFL season moving, you might spend a third of your season against them that you normally wouldn't have. And you would probably have to move the schedule around, whether doing double headers or something like that, to have Daytona stay as your regular season finale, as that has become a very popular event and date for NASCAR fans. You're losing the holiday weekend as well, which might not seem like too big of a deal other than tradition, but practically when it comes to those at the track, it really makes a big deal. I am lucky enough to know a lot of people who go to the Daytona 500 every single year. And one of the things they tell me is that it will hurt attendance. And the Daytona 500 has probably had well over 150, 160,000 people, even though the grandstands hold about 101, 102,000, just because of the infield, overflow, you name it. That is something that we all look at, and that's something that will probably go away because the Monday off will help people stay and they can work around that, whereas they can't when they're going to be working the next day, which is something that really affects NASCAR fans more. And you saw it this past year with how full the race was on Monday. Also, with it so close still to the Super Bowl, I think this is going to hurt the 500 and NASCAR overall. Super Bowl hype in sports will roll through about half the week after, which is your lead up to the biggest race. Speed weeks will stay speed days. It stays short. You can't compete with peak NFL even when it's coming back down the hump. And with that, you're going to probably keep more of the same, and NASCAR is just going to have to be more reactive. While I get people saying that you shouldn't react and move for different sporting leagues like the MLB or NBA, which I think to a large degree I agree with, the NFL and the Super Bowl is a completely different beast. It has captured the culture, and I don't think it's ever going to loosen its grasp unless the NFL for some reason disbands. And the Super Bowl itself, you just cannot touch that whatsoever. There's a reason no relevant sport runs anything near it. And NASCAR, if it wants to stay relevant, will have to heed the NFL's warning with that. So with that, I want to ask, what do you think NASCAR is going to do and what should they do? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for continued support. And until next time, have a good one.